Okay, before we start the video, something really important I have to tell you. Apparently, not everyone is getting new videos in their YouTube subscription box or subscription tab. So just to make sure you don't miss any new videos from Mixtape Videos, click on the ancient bell of alertness in order to join the notification squad. That way you'll receive an email. And just in case you have missed any, go to our YouTube page or YouTube channel just to see if you've missed any of our recent videos. But anyway, that's all. Let's get on to the show. In this episode, we're talking tanking. Does it work? Does it not work? Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. We try to fix the Philadelphia 76ers, and in a new segment called Story Time, we tell the grand story of the Dallas Mavericks. This episode is sponsored by NBA Flip, a numbers-based strategy game made just for NBA fans, and honestly the most addicting game I've played in a while. Download the game on your Android or iOS device and link your Facebook account to play against your friends using your favorite NBA players. Stay tuned to see how you can be part of a special Mixtape Videos tournament and play against me in next week's episode. Welcome to the show. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Mixtape Videos show. That's right, we have an official name now. And what's that? Is that a logo? I don't know, because I can't see. It's blank right now, but I think I'm gonna add a logo there, so how about that? As you saw in the intro, NBA Flip is sponsoring something pretty cool. Next week, I'm going to have a tournament where I'm gonna play against one of you guys. All you have to do is download the app, connect your Facebook account, and then leave a comment below saying, like, I want to be a part of that, or I want to play you, or however you want to word it. Just let me know that you want to be considered for that tournament, and then I'm going to pick one of you guys to play against in NBA Flip, and it's going to be on the show next week. So that's pretty awesome. Thanks to NBA Flip for sponsoring that. Okay, so in this episode, we are talking about one thing and one thing only, and that is tanking. Why? Because the Mavericks suck. And I'm a Mavs fan, so the only thing I can really think about right now is next year, because I ain't thinking about this year. I've been reading draft articles just like all day long. And so the question that comes up anytime you have a sucky team is, should they tank? I mean, is that something that works? So joining me to talk about this topic of tanking is Mr. Cal Lee from the Baseline NBA podcast. He's one half of that podcast, actually. Thank you, Cal, for being on. Thanks for joining the show.
Appreciate you having me on. And you guys, you have a great show going and stuff, so I'm just really happy to be on.
So we're talking about tanking, and just first of all, how do you feel about tanking? Do you think that it works? Is it a reliable process for teams to follow to build a winning team?
So the terminology in tanking, I think, at times gets a little overexposed. I don't think any organization wants to go in with a mindset of saying that if we don't have a championship-based roster and if we don't make the playoffs, that our purpose should be we're going to basically start just tanking basketball games. Some teams that are assembled right now, and they're to completely opposite ends of the spectrum, and all of a sudden the assumption is tanking. You look at a team like the Brooklyn Nets, it's basically a team of D-League and throwaway parts from other rosters that are put together, and yet they're competitive in every single basketball game that they play, yet their record is only 6-15 during the season. Then you look at a team like the Dallas Mavericks, who on paper, and you look at the roster, there's playoff veteran players on that basketball team. There are guys who actually have a championship ring or two. There's a quality legend player that's on the team, and yet they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. So it's not like when Mark Cuban threw the check, whipped out the checkbook, that he said, "I'm going to write up a check to make sure that these guys, are looking like the Philadelphia 76ers of the last 3-4 years." And I just think that at times it becomes a misnomer that the idea is that the team is tanking just simply because they're underachieving the expectations of what they should be producing this season.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was not the Mavericks' plan to tank. And I think, a lot of teams don't plan to tank because, nobody wants to lose. I think with the Mavericks, it's two things. One, just poor management. It's just going back to years. I mean, even before the championship team, but especially after. I mean, just completely in terms of the decision making, using the draft, their plan of trying to sign big name free agents, it was a bad plan. And this is where it gets you, not a good team at all. And then also they've had a lot of injuries. So, I mean, a lot of teams don't plan to tank. But what do you think about like the Sixers? Do you think this is going to work? I mean, they've had all these draft picks. Do you think eventually they are going to be a championship team? Or, I mean, personally, I think it's stupid. Do you think it could work for them?
Well, the reason why I don't think that it's going to work for the Philadelphia 76ers is because when they initiated this process, they chose Michael Carter-Williams, nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons, right? And Jahlil Okafor. So I'm sorry, just 5 years worth of lottery type draft picks. And what's happened over the last 5 years for the Philadelphia 76ers? Well, they've managed to get rid of the general manager who was responsible for the talent.
They still suck.
Talent, and they still aren't good. Michael Carter-Williams has been traded to 2 different basketball teams in that time frame. Remember, he was a rookie of the year for that year that he played for the Philadelphia 76ers. Jahlil Okafor was touted as one of the most offensively gifted players in the NBA, and yet him, nerlens Noel, have always been constantly in trade rumors after they picked up Joel Embiid, who is now finally actually playing games for the Philadelphia 76ers. So when I think of tanking and I think about the Philadelphia 76ers, I think about the Philadelphia 76ers management and organization, because you don't draft these guys with the simple idea or premise to say, we hopefully one day will find our LeBron James. The idea is you're supposed to develop this talent so that they look like maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like you can actually see a semblance of a team actually with championship aspirations or playoff aspirations. And I just feel like that's not what's happening out in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think, the Sixers, like, it has worked for other teams in the past to tank and to just be really bad. But I think what the Sixers are forgetting is that those teams that it worked for, they already had some talent. Like, for example, the Spurs, they didn't intentionally tank, but as it turned out, they were really bad one year. And they got Tim Duncan, ended up winning championships with him. But they already had a pretty good team, not to mention David Robinson. Same thing with the Warriors, who possibly did intentionally tank for a year or two. And they got Harrison Barnes, they got Klay Thompson, ended up with Draymond Green too. But they already had Stephen Curry. They made a trade for Andrew Bogut. And so they had talent. They did other things to build a team. And I think the Sixers, they're just, I don't know if they're stupid or just lazy, but they think that they can just have a sucky team, add 1 or 2 high picks, and then boom, they're going to be good. And it's just like, it doesn't work that way. Like you said, you have to develop players, and you have to also work with trades. You have to work with free agency. It's like the Spurs, they are good at using the draft. Now, I don't think they get a hit every single time they draft a player, but they're very good at using the draft and developing young talent. But occasionally, they will go out into free agency and get that guy. Like, for example, they built up this team and they built it, and then they went out and got LaMarcus Aldridge. They got that guy. Now, they don't bet everything on free agency, but they also don't bet everything on the draft. They're good at that, but then they use the other things. And I think that's what teams like the Mavs are missing. They go after the big fish, when why would the big fish want to come here anyway? They suck. And so that's what's frustrating about it. Okay, so final take. If you are the Philadelphia 76ers GM, like they fired everyone and they hired you and they're like, fix the team, what would you do? I mean, if tanking doesn't work, what would you do with that team to get better every year and eventually be a playoff team?
Well, the first thing that this basketball team needs is a point guard. You look at every single component that's still on this team, young players, they need you need a veteran point guard, or you need a point guard that is kind of their age and that has adapted himself to their skill set to be able to feed these guys the basketball. That's the first and foremost thing you need to do if you're the 76ers. And then you need to start getting rid of players. Like, look, nerlens Noel has been there a long time. Joel Embiid, they're all playing the same position. You cannot tell me that you're going to field a functional basketball team with all of them playing at the same position.
6 centers.
Exactly. All right. And don't tell me you're going to get by with Ersan Ilyasova playing 3. Like, that's not going to happen either. If I'm the GM, I start doing some trades and I start getting back some comparable pieces.
So here's an idea. You want to trade the young guys while their stock is still high because they're young enough and they were high picks, so there's still a little bit of fire around them. So trade them while they're young and try to get, like you said, maybe package a couple of those young guys and get a good player. Point guard. What about Ricky Rubio? Do you think he could help? I mean, he's not a very good scorer, but he's a veteran. He's a good passer. He could actually run an offense. If they did a package and got him and, some other star, do you think that would help?
That would be an excellent move. Now, Ricky Rubio is a guy who distributes the basketball, and the reliance doesn't necessarily have to be on him as a point guard having to score. And so now you can actually give opportunity to some of the younger players that you are keeping if you're the 76ers. So I think that would be a beneficial and solid move. He's been a reliable point guard, had a couple of injuries during the early parts of his year. And while the shooting percentage is not the greatest percentage in the world, I think that it buys time for what you want to do with Ben Simmons.
Yeah. Okay. Well, personally, I don't know. I think the Sixers are so far gone that I don't even know if that would be enough, but it's a start. You're doing something other than just losing with the goal of winning. It just doesn't make sense to me. Cal, thanks for being on the show. Do you want to tell them about the Baseline NBA podcast?
Definitely. The show we have is called the Baseline NBA podcast. It's done by me and my brother from another mother, my partner in crime, Warren Shaw. We basically discuss the hot button topics of the NBA on a weekly basis. We are available on Twitter at NBA Baseline. My Twitter handle is at GameFaceLea, and my co-host's Twitter handle is at Shaw Sports NBA. Definitely check it out. Available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio Player, FM, Microsoft TuneIn, Google Music, and the Roku channel. So nobody can say nobody can say that they don't know where to find us. We're not hard to find, but we definitely the feedback, and we definitely love to kind of evoke conversation about things happening in the association. And we've been doing it for a while, man. Just having a great time doing it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now, like I said earlier, I am a Mavs fan. And so we're going to talk about the Mavs in a new segment called Story Time. Hi. Welcome to Story Time. Today, we're going to tell the story of the Dallas Mavericks. Once upon a time, the Dallas Mavericks won a championship. And then Mark Cuban decided to get rid of the championship team so that they could maybe get Dwight Howard, maybe get Darren Williams, maybe get Chris Paul, maybe get Carmelo Anthony. Spoiler alert, they did not get any of those guys. So now they have no talent. Their best players are old and injured and can never play, and they suck. Now, was it worth it to get rid of all those guys who had just won a championship? I mean, think about it. Did Dwight Howard win a championship that year? Did Darren Williams win a championship that year? Did Chris Paul win a championship that year? Did Carmelo Anthony win a championship that year? In fact, have either of those players even gone to the finals ever in their career? Aside from Dwight Howard, no. And they most certainly did not win a championship that year or in the years since then. So instead of keeping guys who had won a championship, you say, no, you're not good enough. We're gonna just get rid of everyone and save some money, not use the draft because that would take up about $400,000 that we could offer to Dwight Howard, who's not coming here anyway. So they get rid of all of them. Championship team, no, Tyson Chandler, you're not good enough. Maybe you just won a championship, but you're not good enough. JJ Barea, we don't really need you. Sean Marion, Jason Kidd, okay, you guys can stay. Not really, the next year you're gone. So now they suck. And who is their knight in shining armor? Who is the guy that they want to turn the franchise around, to bring it back to its glory days? DeMarcus Cousins. He is their hero. That shining beacon of leadership and maturity and winning. Just an example of what a winning player is all about. DeMarcus Cousins. That is their hero and their knight in shining armor. But, spoiler alert, we already know they're not going to get DeMarcus Cousins, because why in the world would DeMarcus Cousins go from one sucky team to another sucky team, okay? You know what? For the record, I don't even want DeMarcus Cousins, okay? If he can't get along with George Karl, then what makes you think he's going to be able to get along with Rick Carlisle? Not going to happen, okay? Just don't even do it. The end. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful story. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this show, make sure you give it a thumbs up so I know to make more videos like this, or give it a thumbs down so I know to not make more videos like this. Thanks to Cal Lee for being a part of the show. Thank you for watching and for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe for more awesome NBA content. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Adios. That's bye in Spanish, in case you didn't know that. That was a shout out to all of our Spanish fans. Yeah, I got you. I just ended, Sydney. Just end it. Okay, we're done.